Hello and welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Eric, joined once again with Tim,
Hi.
bringing you some more Desperate Housewives. Season 2, episodes 10 to 12. Tommy will roll the credits and we'll chat. All right. Yes, these were some fun episodes.
Okay. So
Where,
we're what? Season 2, episode 10. It's titled Coming Home. We
hmm
start with Bree. Bree is walking to George's house. And of course, dressed impeccably. Bree always looks amazing. Very put together, very staged. But she walks to George's house and the police are there. The detective's there that dealt with her husband's murder. And basically, she walks in and says, "Hey, did you find George? We have some bad news. He committed suicide." She acts shocked. They start to say that they found some things and they found a note. And the detective sort of like apologized a little bit and said, "We think he is the one who murdered your husband. And we found some things." And just then, policemen walk out with Bree's bra and panties in a Ziploc baggie. It's like, "Oh my God, what are those? Why are they here?" "Well, we think he was collecting things." And then they talk about, well, he also had a room full of things that he collected. He sort of had a shrine, and it was debris. And just then, the policemen walk out with a mannequin dressed like Brie, with the red wig, the pearls, the little cashmere cardigan sweater. They said that Georgia committed suicide. They think that he poisoned the husband. All this stuff. She left pretty upset. And she said, "Why would he have a mannequin of me?" And they kind of alluded and hinted that it was a sex doll, which is kind of creepy. I mean, George is creepy to begin with.
I mean, I don't know how you
So
connect with it. It was like a store dummy, pretty much.
yeah, it was a sword Tommy, but God knows what George did. I mean, he was a creepy character,
Build a hole.
right?
Ooh.
So we open the next scene, and Bree is talking to the girls. Lynette, Susan, Gabby. The core group, and she's talking to them and said, "I wanted to tell you first before the neighborhood started to talk. George committed suicide." One of the girls says, "I hope he suffered." And she
Mhm.
said she covers really quick. She's very good at covering things and putting up a very streamlined front. Everything's perfect with Brie. She says, "We will never know." She sort of covered the tracks. She knew that George killed himself. Remember from the last episode, she watched him do it. She let it happen.
Sitting with him, yeah.
Um, so just then, as she's talking to the girls, a cab pulls up, and out comes Andrew. And she said, "Oh,
Mm.
Andrew doesn't know. Andrew's coming home from Camp Hennessy. She's bringing him home from Camp Hennessy."
Little
So
shithead.
she, yeah, a little shithead, right? But you sort of feel bad he got sent there because of George, but whatever. Andrew has his own problems.
Yeah.
So she goes and tells Andrew that he committed suicide. He has end up asking the police, say, "Why?" "Well, because they said he poisoned your father to get to me." And Andrew, you could see, is visibly upset. He's visibly shaken. "You helped to cause Dad's death." And the Bree said, "I know, I hate myself for that. I did not mean for this." And you sort of feel bad for Bree. You don't, you do, whatever. You feel bad for Andrew. You don't, you do. Then Andrew says, "That makes two of us." She says, "I hate myself. That makes two of us."
Yeah.
Um, then Andrew announces, "By the way, I'm having a friend come over." And Bree ends up asking questions about the friend. Who is this friend? "Let's just say he's a special friend, Mom." And he sort
Mhm.
of does the quotations. And she says, "Andrew, I will not have that behavior in my house." And he says, "You killed Dad. You can't tell me what to do anymore." And he sort of battles against her.
And it's the same guy that was
Justin.
was trying to sleep with Gabby before, but then he said I might be gay. He was
Yeah,
trying to
that
sleep with Gabby to blackmail her and all that.
yeah, that Carlos beat up and everything else. He was friends with the gardener and lived with the gardener. So we go to the next scene. Andrew and Justin are playing video games in Andrew's bed. Drew leans in for a kiss. Justin says, "What if your mom walks in?" And he said, "I kind of want her to. I want her to see this." And
Mhm.
he said, "That's not right." And he said, "Look, she thinks I'm going to hell and she stopped loving me because I'm gay." So he said, "So I stopped loving her first." Or she said, "If I ever went this direction, she stopped loving me because I'm gay." She said, "I stopped loving her first." He said, "That's not right." And he said, "Don't worry, I'm planning something big for her. And she's not going to see it coming. And it's going to destroy her world." So we
Like
end that scene.
a
Okay.
self defense.
Yeah, I kind of get it. I mean, we're both gay, and coming out wasn't easy.
Yeah.
And people sort of evolve their views. Our parents weren't the most accepting when we first came out, but they evolve, they change, they accept us for who we are, they accept those that we love. They're friendly
Yep.
to our friends, and the family we chose. But Bree eventually, she has a good character arc. They all do. But
Yeah.
right now, Bree is in that bit where she cannot accept Andrew. So they go
Yep.
to a next scene, and Bree is talking to Andrew, and she says, "Look, I set up a therapy appointment for all of us, for you, Danielle, myself. I want us all to heal. I want us to go as a family." And Andrew says, "You know what I want? I want George to walk in that front door so I can stab him in the heart."
Hmm.
And Bree says, she kind of comes to George's defense, says, "Well, he's dead, honey." And he goes, "Well, he chose a coward's way out. He chose suicide. He didn't face things like a man." Bree suddenly looks concerned and says, "Well, if would it make you feel better if he sort of suffered and knew what he did was wrong, and if someone executed him?" And he goes, "You know what? It would, yes." So Bree suddenly confesses everything to Andrew. She tells him about being called to the room. She went there. George had taken all these pills. George was slowly slipping away. Bree was considering for a moment of actually calling the police. We saw that in the last episode. He could not confess what he did. He did not feel any remorse. Bree backed off, and she let Andrew know that. Andrew says, "Thank you for letting me know. I'm glad that he died."
Hmm.
He gives her a hug and says, "Thank you for telling me." And that's kind of their story for this episode. But it's kind of, it sums the whole George storyline up real quick, and
Which could,
Andrew's planning something.
right, which could lead to like a future blackmail, we're assuming,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
so Lynette tells her boss Ed that they need daycare. They need 16 kids to be able to start it up and get it going. I guess that's the laws there or whatever. It was he fired half the staff, which he did in the previous episode. He fired her old boss and all that jazz. He tells her to try to talk to his wife, Fran, played by Penelope Ann Miller. She was in Kindergarten Cop. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's in a lot of stuff. I'm always surprised to see these like little, like these kind of big actors in small roles. Like Marlee Matlin was like won an Oscar in the '80s, and she was only in the one episode. And like, it's just funny to see them. I mean, I'm wondering if they're like fans of the show and we're like, just give me a small bit role, like because I feel. But this is the last time we see her too. So as I looked it up. So Lynette talks to Fran. Fran's very like overprotective mother, doesn't want to leave her kids, quit her job to raise the kid and all that stuff. She says that she needs the 16 kids for daycare. Fran, like on her way out, asks her why she even has kids if she doesn't want to raise them.
And
Well,
that's harsh. That's really harsh.
that lights Lynette up a little bit. She's like, 'cause
Yeah.
we all know what she's done to see her children. Lynette and Ed are working late. She's like she talks them into standing up to Fran, like it's your child too. Do what you gotta do. Their child's name is Mindy. Later on, Ed gets Mindy and brings her to work. He's like, well, while she was in the shower, I took Mindy, and we all know that's a problem because
Yeah.
we the overprotective parent. I'm surprised she didn't call the cops, like because that is crazy. Or they start fighting each other in the office. She kind of takes the baby in another office and locks them in. And she's like, "You two got to calm down. Like, this is ridiculous. Get your stuff together, whatever." And she kind of talks to them and talks them into like having a nice conversation. Go downstairs. We'll talk. She's like, "Well, what about my baby?" And she's like, "Well, we got daycare." And then she holds the baby and like, and they go down and talk. And it was nice. Very back burner story for Lynette. I'll get into a little bit. So Zach returns home. Um, he sees his dad, Paul. He asks who his dad is because he found out his mother was a junkie, whatever, from that other lady, Felicia. And Paul says that he doesn't know who the dad is. Of course, he does know that it's Mike.
All right. So Susan. Susan and Addison. Addison is her father that we found out the last episode or two when he was in the hospital. He
Yeah.
came to her house to come see her. She was her surprise, and he said, "Well, you kind of blackmailed me into coming at the hospital." She's like, "Is that a problem?" And then she starts. She basically says, "Like, I want you to be part of the life. I want you to come in." We fast forward to the next scene. She's showing all these pictures of her as a child and Halloween pictures, first grade, kindergarten, whatever.
He has zero interest.
He has zero interest. He's just there, like, I just want a piece of this woman. I don't want any trouble.
Yeah.
So she says that she wants a relationship. He doesn't know if he could do that. He has to leave, go back to work. We go to another scene. Addison calls Susan. You know how you wanted to put a light in my life? You wanted to get me involved? Well, I can use your help. And he's like, I need you to come to the police station. What happened? What happened? Well, I kind of got arrested for solicitation. Um, so she goes to the police station. She bails him out. He gives this whole story about, well, I just couldn't help myself. I was opening an email. And back in the day in the 90s, sometimes you'd open an email and all these little pop ups would pop up. And apparently he watched dirty pop ups. So he decided he was going to get a call girl. So he found a lady of the night, we'll say, a sex worker. And he got arrested. It was a policeman. And he said, I asked 3 times and she said nothing. So basically, he was sort of, they tricked him into solicitation, and because in the U.S. they're supposed to say if they're police or not if you ask them. But
Yeah.
anyway, she bails him out, and he says like, "Look, are you done with me? This is obviously embarrassing." She said, "No, I'm not." And she says like, "I want you to come for coffee at 2 p.m." So she drops him off at his house. He gets out of the car. The wife pulls up. The wife sees this, gets angry. She picks up a bag from a shopping bag, I guess, starts to write something on it. Well, we're like, what the hell is she writing? She's writing down Susan's license plate. She basically follows Susan home, or she knows where Susan lives. We open to another scene, and there's a woman walking her cat. I love this woman because I think it's the only time you see her. She's walking the cat on a leash. She has, I think, a cat T-shirt on, whatever. She's like the stereotypical cat lady in any cartoon or TV show. So she goes by. Susan says hello to her. Susan bends down to pick up her newspaper in the driveway. And right behind Susan, in big red letters on her white garage door, is the word whore.
Oh, what?
Gigantic. Whore. She's a whore.
Written in red.
Um, so Susan waves to her. She's like, what the heck is this woman staring at? She turns around, like, oh my God.
Edie comes along.
Oh, Evie comes along and she says, go ahead, Evie. I know what you want to say. I know you want to say something. She goes, nope, that pretty much says it all. Like, it's out there in the open. Like, Edie gets a dig back at her, and I love it. Susan at the store, the supermarket. We go to the scene with Susan at the supermarket,
Yeah.
and she's shopping, and there's Carol. Well, I forget the guy's name already. Addison's wife.
Life, yeah.
And Carol sees her, and Susan tries to run really quick or whatever. And whatever, she says, oh, do you know who I am? When she confronts her, and she says, I know who you are. You've been screwing my husband. She said, no, no, no. And Carol starts throwing stuff from her cart, stuff from the shelves. She's ready to ram the cart into Susan. It's a very comical scene, as only Susan can do.
Always.
So Susan's trying to defend herself. She said, no, 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 I'm not. I'm telling you, it's not it. I'm his daughter. And just then you see Carol sort of almost like collapses. The energy gets sucked back in. And she goes, I've been married to him for 39 years. Or she said, how can I ask you how old you are? Susan said she's 38. God bless her because they're younger than us now at this point. The
Yeah.
show. They were older than us back in the day. But anyway, she's 38. Carol says she's been married 39 years. She goes, I knew it's been going on pretty much from the beginning. She said, look, I just wanted to find out who my dad was. And then she said, honey, you don't want to get to know him. He's going to break your heart, I promise you. And Susan doesn't believe that. And I feel bad for Susan because she wants what's right. She's generally good character. Carol knows her husband. Will Addison break her heart? Probably, maybe not. Who knows? Um, so we go to a next scene, and Susan is painting her garage door in the rain. She's painting over the word whore in white paint. And Addison comes by and says, like, look, Carol told me what happened. He sort of apologized. And she says, look, you don't have to try anymore. It's okay. He said, no. He said, I need to tell you there's 3 things I'm proud of in my life. One was he did some kind of like wild horse rescue. I forget the second thing. And the third thing he was proud of was her. Because I guess he had nothing really to be proud of in his life. But he said,
Yeah.
he's like, you don't know anything about me, so let me tell you about myself. But he told her these 3 things. The first 2 things are pretty big. But he said, I'm proud of you. He said, you make me want to be a better person. I want to be part of your life. He said, look, give me some time. I need to patch up my marriage with Carol, and then I'll come by. So there's sort of a happy ending for Susan there, she's gonna get to see her dad. I don't remember if we see him in future episodes or not, but
No, I
yeah.
looked him up. He was only in a 3 episode arc. So maybe off screen.
Yeah,
or
right.
or they recast them, but I don't even remember the storyline, so I doubt they even recast them. Gabby is looking for Carlos. She hunts him down. He's at church because we know this sister Mary is in town trying to steal her husband away. They're talking about helping people in Botswana. She's there to give these speeches, try to get people into the in the neighborhood and raise money and do whatever for her trip to Botswana. And Gabby finds them and she like tells them like Mary's trying to get you, like, right, like, I don't know why you don't see this. He's like, no, she's a nun, how would she try that? Gabby gets home, finds out Sister Mary is leaving to Botswana, and I think, yeah, this is where she finds out that Carlos is going to be going too,
Yeah.
because at the church she found out about Saint Mary, or Saint Mary, Sister Mary going. Um, and she's like, "How much do you need for this to happen?" Like $8,000. She donated. Again, I don't know how they got their money back because I guess it got
Yeah.
free when he got let go, but they were like piss poor, so I don't know how
Yeah.
that worked out. But anyway, so yeah, so now Mary's going on the trip with Carlos to Botswana for 2 months. Um,
Hmm.
Gabby has a little, like, she threatens Mary to like slap her or whatever. She's like, "Go ahead, slap me. Make sure it shows."
Yeah.
This Mary is a tough bitch.
Yeah.
She doesn't, and she's like, "I knew you wouldn't," or something like that. Gabby goes off on Carlos for helping the poor people. I think they're at the clinic at this time. He's getting like his shots for the trip because
That's why. Yeah.
you have to get shots to go overseas to some places. He says, "Oh, fill out the rest of this," while he goes in the back and gets whatever he needs to get. And apparently, he's allergic to eggs. But then, like, because she says, like, "Oh, whatever." Like, she mentions him being allergic to eggs. She's like, "Oh yeah, if you don't do that, he'll get sick or whatever." And she's like, "Ooh, he's allergic to fish eggs." So we all know, like, usually these shots that we get have an egg substance in it. So of course he gets sick when he gets the shot, which holds him up from going to the trip. I don't remember if Sister Mary returns at some point
Yeah. I
either,
don't remember either. I think this might be the end of her.
because I don't know what the next story is with them, with Sister Mary, if she's around. I think I thought I did remember her coming back later, but I don't know. Maybe she does. The very little bit that we get of these people. Betty goes to the psych hospital. She pretends to be there to, like, I guess, play piano for the patients.
Yeah.
Caleb's there, of course. We see these guys early in the episode, like, talking about Caleb. We don't know exactly what happened. They're trying to get him for something. We don't know if they want to question him. We
Yeah.
don't want to kill him. We don't really know what they're doing. So this one guy gets to the hospital. I think his name's Monroe, his last name. And then Matthew sneaks Caleb out. He was like wearing the jacket in the back of the thing, hoodie, whatever, puts it on him, gets him out
Ha-
somehow. That can happen because I feel like some hospitals don't really pay attention to what's going on.
yes.
They
We've all
have
heard stories. Let's just say that.
So it could happen. So he snuck him out. His brother, I think we find out that it's his brother now.
Matthew. Yeah.
We weren't sure exactly who he was before, if it was her husband or what.
The one thing we didn't mention though, the guy, so that they were basically finding they're hitmen. The bad guys are hitmen. He went to his room before the hospital and he was trying to find Caleb. Couldn't find him, but he filled a syringe with something. We don't know what he filled the syringe with, but I think he was going to kill Caleb that way. And then he heard the piano playing, and that's how he found the bad guy found Betty playing the piano for everyone there. He was going to try to kill him, and he realized I think he recognized Betty Applewhite. So
Sure, if he was going to kill him, because later on when he saw him, he was like, but maybe he was just trying to like get close to him because, like, I'm not here to hurt you. So Paul tells Mike that Zach is home. He threatens him. Um, Paul threatens Mike, then Mike threatens Paul because he's like, if you come near Zach, like, things aren't going to go well, whatever. But we're going to move, and Mike's like, no, you're not going to move because I'll go to the cops myself. So Paul's threatening to go to the cops. Mike's threatening to go to the cops. So Paul, I guess, decides to move or to stay there because Mike threatened him as well.
yeah,
So they're at a standstill there. And at the end, I think Caleb was home. I forgot to say too that Lynette has baby time at work, so she gets to see her baby. So, episode 11, season 2, One More Kiss. I'm going to tell you to go with Susan's story first, and then I'll get into mine because mine is my girls are together in this
Okay.
one.
All right. So yeah, and that's the girls are together in that the first opening scene. So Susan, at some point, Susan is somewhere outside, and I forget if she's going to her car, what she's doing, but she sees Zach leaving the house. Susan, Paul's house. Susan runs over to Mike's house and says, "Hey, I just want to let you know Zach's home." And he goes, "Yeah, I know. He's been home for a couple days." Susan seems shocked. Like, that's great. He's here. He can reestablish contact with them. And that scene kind of ends. We go to the next scene, and Susan is with her daughter Julie, and she says, "Can I talk to you? Zach is home. Oh no, I'm sorry. Zach comes to the house. Susan and Julie are there. Zach comes to the house and says, "Can I talk to you? I want to apologize for everything I did. I want to apologize for holding you hostage." And she kind of talks about that. Well, you tried to kill us. He said, "Please, I that's all behind me. I didn't know everything. Please don't tell my dad I was here. He doesn't want me to see people. Things have been really tense lately." And Julie says, "I feel bad for him." Then Susan says, "You know what? He needs a good role model in his life." And she sort of looks at Julie, and Julie's like, "What the heck?" You can see it on Julie's face. Like, you don't want me to be near him. He's crazy, but now you want to be a role model for him. So we go up to Susan and Julie. The next scene, they walk up to Mike. They talk about a way to possibly bring Zach back into the picture into Mike's life. How about we go bowling? We're gonna. Susan feels bad. She's like, "I want to make this right. I caused a lot of this." Mike agrees. Julie agrees. We go to the next scene is the bowling alley. Susan, Mike, and Julie are already there. Zach comes up. Seems sort of surprised to see Mike. They figure everyone deserves a second chance. Zach is really confused by this. Zach ends up bowling. At one point, Julie does something endearing, but she leans in to kiss him on the cheek. And we know that Zach had feelings for Julie. So it's like, that can be confusing, but she's trying to help. Then we go to a next scene, and Zach is, I think he's trying to do a reading list, trying to get a reading list for school or whatever. He's going to be homeschooled. His dad says, "I think you'll like homeschooling," and whatever. He said, "Look, I need to keep you close. People won't be happy that we're here." He Zach says, "Like who? Like Mike Delfino?"
Trying to
And
hide
then,
pretty much.
yeah, trying to hide it. And then Zach says to his dad, Paul, or his whatever, stepdad, adopted dad, whatever. Felicia said, "You murdered Mrs. Huber." He said, "Do you think I'm capable of committing murder?" And Zach says no, but he said, "I didn't think Mom would commit suicide either." So basically, he says this, and he kind of realizes he doesn't really know his dad. So that scene ends, and then we go to Paul goes up later on and finds Zach in bed, and I guess he's doing his reading list for the homeschooling, and he kind of glances at the trash can, and he finds the bowling sheet, the bowling record or whatever, but it has Zach's name, Mike, Susan, and Julie, and he gets really upset, and he wakes him up. "What's this?" He starts to yell at him and everything. And then while this is going on, I can't actually talk about this because this continues another scene. So I have to stop this because I think he leaves his house.
My girls are intertwined in a story together. So, of course, it starts out the episode. They're at a party. I think it's one of Bree's dinner parties. I'm not really sure whose house it
Yeah,
was.
Bree's house.
Um, they talk about first kisses and what a nerd Tom was and whatever. Gabby's like, "Oh, I would have kissed you," and they're all joking around. Lynette's even there, and everybody's there.
Yeah,
But Gabby decides to kiss Tom in front of everyone, like as a joke, and everybody's laughing it off. And Lynette's like, eh. She talks to Gabby about it, well, like it later on in the scene when they're all cleaning up, and she's like, that kind of bugged me what you did. She's like, what? Like, why? We were just joking around. Um, Whatever. And at this point, Lynette does not know of her affair, which she finds out later on. Lynette thanks Bree because Bree had stuck up for her I think Susan was kind of like, let's keep the peace, it was just a joke. And Bree's like, I would be a little uncomfortable if that, like if that happened to me. So Lynette thanks her for backing her up. Then Bree brings up Gabby's affair with John the gardener. And Lynette's like, I didn't know that happened. I didn't hear that. So, oh, meanwhile, they're in their cars talking on the block, which kind of cracked me up. We had an obnoxious neighbor behind, like honking or whatever, and she like drove around on the curb. Gabby goes to Tom and Lynette. Oh, yeah, Tom and Lynette's house. Tom's there alone, and Lynette's at the store and like calls to see if they need something. I forget what it was, like bread or something. Um, she hears Gabby in the background, like, "Oh, I'm help." Like, just she wasn't there doing anything bad, whatever. Lynette like hightails it home. She's like drops her cart and runs. Gabby's upset with Lynette, and she's like, Why would you think this? Like, what's going on?" And I forget what happened. Where I think Lynette was just like, I can't say that. I can't. You're untrustworthy. And then Gabby's like, "Oh, what? It's because I slept with my what was it, teenage."
Gardner.
So then Carlos and Gabby are talking. She's like, "How did Nanette find out? Like, who would tell her?" Then she's like, "I'm never gonna live this down. How about you go have an affair, and make it even?" Carlos like, "No, like, why? I don't want anybody else. Like, I just want you. Whatever." She's like, "No, go. Just don't bring any diseases home." Tom asks Lynette if she is overreacting. And then Tom kind of just gets in, like, I saw Brie Vandekamp checking me out one time when I was bringing out the trash and like bent over and like everybody
Mhm.
thinks I'm hot. I'm hot. And like it just kind of cracks her up. And she's like, oh, and it kind of eases her. And she's like, yeah, I mean, I'm being silly. I'll go to Gabby, whatever, later and apologize. She goes to Gabby and apologizes. Doesn't go as we would think it would because she's like, she forgives her like 99%, but there's 1%. She's like, the 1%, like, right, that I'm unhappy with. Thinking that Gabby's not getting it. Of course, Carlos comes in. Lynette explains why it bugged her. Then she's like, you know what? Maybe if I do this, she kisses Carlos for like ever until Gabby's like, all right, enough. Like, I
Yeah.
get it. I get
Yeah.
it. And she's like, all right, my work's done. She leaves. Later on, Lynette's at home or whatever. Carlos goes over. He thanks Lynette. He brings up an affair. He's like, it was kind of hot together. Like, if you're ever interested, he like says it in like a nonchalant way. Like, if you're ever interested, she's like, no, that's all right. I'm good. He's like, it was one hell of a kiss, and then just like walks away. And that's it for them. The huge story, and then they show like later on at the end. I think Lynette and Tom are just kissing. Everybody's kissing because it's the one more kiss episode or whatever.
Yeah.
And all right, go on with
All
Brie.
right. So Brie, we did talk about the dinner party at the beginning, that kiss and everything else. The one comment that was made at that dinner party was when they were cleaning up, was that Betty Applewhite did not come. She didn't RSVP, and they talked about how she sort of keeps to herself. And someone said they're interesting, and Edie says, "Yeah, they kind of weird me out too." Like Edie is very perceptive. Edie she says what people are thinking, but everyone else is very nice and phrases it nicely, neighborly, cordially. Edie just says what she thinks. She doesn't sugarcoat anything.
Nope.
So that's the end of that party and everything else. And you talked about the kiss. We go to a scene of Andrew and Justin talking and giggling. They just came back from, I guess, a date. They pulled up. Bree sees them. Bree sort of has an argument with Andrew and says, "I don't want you doing that in front of the neighborhood. Then what will the neighbors think?" He's like, "That hopefully that landed a hottie. That your son landed a hottie." Um, she's like, "I won't accept that behavior." She's, I think she breaks the glass. She pours more wine. Her and Andrew continue to fight. He says something about, like, she goes upstairs, whatever, and he says, "Here, I think you're forgetting this," and he hands her the bottle of wine. At this point, we're seeing Bree is drinking more and more. She's got a lot of stress going on in her life. It's her husband died, George, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, you talked about the next scene, Bree and Lynette, when they were the ones in the car. Bree was going up for croissants, and it was Ida Greenberg that pulls up behind them as they had their long, juicy gossip conversation. Brie comes back with the fresh croissants that she bought at the store. She takes them into Andrew's room, and Andrew and Justin are in bed. Justin's like, they're shirtless. They have pants on or shorts or whatever, but they're shirtless. And she goes, Andrew. And Andrew doesn't budge. Justin wakes up and says, oh, hey, Miss Van de Kamp, so sorry. We fell asleep studying for science class or whatever. They makes up some excuse.
And Andrew
So,
was hoping to get busted too by
yeah, he
Brie.
was hoping. He was. So she says, Andrew, I want you downstairs now. She's He comes downstairs and she says, you can't do this in my house, blah blah blah. Well, I'm going to call the police. He said, go ahead and call the police. um I'll tell them everything about George. She says, you wouldn't do that, and he goes, yes I would. Right. So at this point we know Andrew is out to destroy Bree, his mother. The next scene we see, Bree goes visit Carl. She knocks at his door and says, I have a question for you. When does attorney-client privilege begin? Like the confidentiality clause. When does it begin? Is it when someone pays a retainer? And he goes, yes. So she goes, okay, and she gives him money. It kicks in immediately. She goes, from this moment, you're my lawyer, and she hands him a check for $100.
And
She's like, what?
Carl's only been on like one or two times, and he's supposed to
It's
be like a main cast member now.
Yeah.
So
So he
weird.
does come back. I remember he comes back a lot later, but he comes
Yeah.
and goes. So he's like, can I ask what this is about? She says, Andrew's trying to blackmail me, and I want you to stop that. So, that scene ends. Bree brings Carl in to talk to Andrew. Maybe you've got the story wrong, and then says something about if you go to the police, I'll sue. That's what Bree says, and he's like, "You can't sue me. I'm your kid." Someone says the cops may not care, but how do you think? Oh, he says the cops may not care what you say, but how do you think your friends feel when they find out what happened? You'll be publicly shamed. And Bree is all about images and this perfect persona and the perfect house, perfect picket fence,
Yep.
perfect housewife, the image. So Carl says, "Hey, Bree, can I get a refill on this coffee?" Bree goes in the kitchen. Carl grabs Andrew and throws him against the wall and says, "What are you doing?" And he basically threatens Andrew. And he said, "You can't do this to me. You're not my father." And basically, Carl says, "If your father is here, he'd be ashamed of the way you are, the way you're acting."
Yeah.
And it sort of scared the crap out of Andrew because he said, like, it's this whole thing, like, you don't think I'll kick your butt? I will. Trust me, I will.
Paul and Zach. Paul said that he wanted to homeschool Zach, which you mentioned. Matthew. Oh, Matthew locks Caleb in the basement again.
Yes.
Edie talks to the dude that's watching them, Monroe. The guy waits until Betty and Matthew leave. And then he goes in their house. He finds Caleb, and I think, oh yeah, he releases them. Doesn't he release them? And then he starts going up the stairs. Is that what happened?
Something happened. He did, and then Caleb did something. I think I forget if he punched Caleb, whatever happened. But the
No,
guy started to go up the steps, though.
yeah, he started to go up, and then he fell through the steps.
Yeah, and they mentioned earlier in the episode, they said we really need to fix these steps. Someone's gonna get hurt on them. The step
Right.
was really creaky.
And he literally fell through and got like stabbed with the wood. And so when Betty and Matthew come home, Caleb's in the kitchen eating ice cream, and like, I didn't do it. As he's still eating. And then they see it. They find out that who Monroe is or whatever. They're trying to figure it out. Um, uh,
I think his phone rang. His phone rang when they were going to check to
yeah,
see who he was.
the other guy called Foster, his name is apparently. So I guess he'll be coming to town. Betty and Matthew get rid of Monroe's body. They put him in a trunk. Susan crashes. Is that what you're going to talk about?
Oh yeah. So how did that happen? That scene was, we go back to Paul, and Paul found the bowling sheet. He runs out of the house, goes over and sees Mike, and I think they threw a punch at Mike, and then Mike punched him back, and it turned into this big tackling scene. And Susan's driving down the street. The cat lady's walking her cat. It's all this stuff is like happening. It's almost like a Final Destination. You're
Yeah.
watching all these little pieces come together. But
Yep.
Mike and Paul are wrestling and punching each other. Susan's watching in the car, watching, driving, not paying attention. The Applewhites, I think, are out front of their house or doing something. All the neighbors are out, and all of a sudden, Susan think she avoids hitting a kid on a bike or something, or
Yeah.
someone. She avoids, or the cat lady walking the cat. I don't know. She avoids somebody, and she crashes in the back of the car. I think she goes to get out, and then the cat lady's right next to the car, and the trunk pops open, and the cat lady screams.
Ah, there's
Yeah.
a body.
Um, so that kind of goes like all this cluster bomb happened of all these scenes kind of pulled together. But the cops come. They ask Susan what she knows. She doesn't know anything. The Applewhites are standing there. Everyone's talking, and then the suspicion gets thrown on: how much do we really know the Applewhites?
Well, the ladies also discussed, they're like, well, who else could have done it? Probably Paul, because Paul's the one that killed somebody in the past.
Yeah,
So, and then Edie had brought up that, she thinks the Applewhites are up to something.
yeah,
And then when Zach gets kissed on the cheek by Julie at the end when they're talking about all the different kinds of kisses. Edie and Carl kissing because they're still a couple apparently, which I kind of forgot that they were even a couple before.
yeah.
All right, well, the last episode, episode 12, we're gonna be all right. Starts with Susan out on a date with this guy, Jim.
Okay, so Jim is the how do we describe Jim? Jim is this guy. He was on Ally McBeal actually. He was a character
I
on there for a long time.
was gonna say that he was a major character on there.
He was. He was a major character.
Yeah,
One of the core characters. But anyway,
yeah.
he's kind of this nerdy guy. I guess he had a good career, but he never did well with women, dating women. He always said the wrong joke, said the wrong thing, made the wrong comment, made a sexual innuendo. And you watch it kind of play out in this scene with Susan at a date. It's a blind date someone set her up with. She couldn't wait to get out of it. Something happens, and I guess they both bend down, and she accidentally bumped him in the head, and he has a big welt here, like an egg, like a concussion. So they both go to the hospital. He's getting checked out. She wants to leave desperately. Susan, a hot doctor, comes in, and I forget.
Season antics.
Yeah, more Susan antics. Lots of trouble, right?
Oh,
So,
God.
I forget the doctor's name. I wrote his name down somewhere later. But anyway, she's trying to get away from him. He's getting ready to leave. He's making jokes to everybody, and she begs the doctor, "Please, I need to leave. I need to go." And the doctor, I think, said we weren't done with Susan, but he basically says we need to keep this guy here longer. We need to keep Jim. Jim, we need to keep you here for more testing. Susan's happy she leaves. Susan and the girls are talking about the Applewhites on another scene. They suspect the Applewhites. Betty Applewhite is saying that she's going to Susan's birthday, I think. She confirms for something. She's trying to get more involved in the neighborhood because she realizes her and Matthew realize they're not really involved in the neighborhood, and they need
Yeah.
to create a good front. So they need to, so there's not suspicion. And they mentioned that in the last episode. So
She, she mentions to Susan, "Oh, isn't your birthday coming up? Maybe we should all get together for dinner or something like
yeah,
that."
so
To
she's
throw it.
trying to get more involved. The doctor called. He needs to see you. So Susan gets excited, thinking, well, he's a hot doctor. He's a young hot doctor. Is he cute? I don't know. The age difference might be a problem. Julie says just go for it. Just whatever, mom, go for it. Susan's at the hospital. She's getting checked out, and she puts down all these reasons to, I guess, be seen by the doctor. She put down she's dizzy and anxiety and all these things.
Yeah.
So, isn't Dr. Ron going to come? And he says, well, he has a busy schedule. And that's where I think Susan sort of makes up all these symptoms. So they schedule, I think, an MRI for her. Schedule an MRI. Dr. Ron's there. It's just going to take a little while. Susan goes in and starts to undress. She goes in the MRI room. Here's the hooks for your belongings. I would think the same thing. Okay, I have to strip down in my underwear for this. Susan strips down, and they say through the thing, "You don't need to undress." She's like, "Well, what is this robe for?" And they go, "That's not a robe. That's the duster or the dust cover for the MRI machine." So Susan gets in the MRI machine. She gets dressed again. She gets in the MRI machine. It's gonna be about 45 minutes. She starts to talk about things, about possibly going on a date with Dr. Ron, the hottie. And suddenly she's like, "Are you there? Are you there?" And the guy says, "Dr. Ron left about 45 minutes ago. He took a phone call from his girlfriend." And Susan's like, "All right, I think I want to get out now. I think I'm good." So, Susan has to continue with the MRI, whatever. The next scene, Dr. Ron arrives at Susan's house and he says, "Look, I have your results and I am stumped. I don't know what the heck I'm looking for. We need to get you in for more testing. And she basically says, like, look, I made that all up to see you. I wanted to see you. I thought you were into me. Obviously you're not. I made a mistake. And he gets infuriated. He is like, I was concerned. I lost sleep. I looked all the stuff up. I talked to colleagues all night. He said, of course I wanted to see you, but I can't believe he did this to me. So she basically begs him for another date or whatever. And he says, look, he said, how about I've got a busy week. How about later in the week? He said, you know what? How about Friday? Friday, and he gives her time what they're gonna do. He says, I think I'll be calmed down by then, like, and he's this hot doctor, but he's infuriated at what she did to him.
Tom's worried that he's going to get the chicken pox. All the kids have them.
Oh yeah.
Lynette has to stay home with the kids. I feel like Tom's just like living outside or in the car or something during these episodes. Carlos comes by. He mentions like something about sterility. It can mess you up, right? If you get chicken pox.
As an adult, yes.
Lynette is upset that he like thought like, oh, if anything happens to her, that he can move on and have kids. That's why he doesn't want any sterility, because she's like, I thought we were done having babies, like we're good to go, like what are you doing? Lynette tells Tom that she doesn't want him to have a backup plan and to get a vasectomy to make her feel better.
Yeah.
He seems very hesitant, but he's like, all right, fine, I'll make an appointment, whatever. I think he even asked, he's like, can I just buy you flowers? Like, why do I have to cut myself off here? So he reluctantly agrees. Tom gets home later on. I guess he was supposed to have the vasectomy. He says, I couldn't do it. I feel emasculated. I quit my job. I don't feel like the man of the house anymore. And she's like, are you happy? And he's like, no. And she's like, well, what are we going to do about that? He's like, I don't know. So yeah, that's how that ends with that. So I'm assuming they do have some more story coming up, because that's all that happened for them in these
Yes.
episodes.
I think they go through. I mean, obviously, we know their characters through the rest of the series, and everyone has their moments. So, but they've got some stuff to work through.
So hit it with Bree.
All right, so Bree, we have Bree and Betty Applewhite. Bree sees Betty. Betty thanks Bree for the advice on the azaleas. They look beautiful. I don't know if I'll be able to enjoy them at this point. Betty is trying to get in with the neighbors, but she's starting to sow the seed or the idea that they may move or they may have to go take care of family. And she says, "I may not get to see the help that you've given me for these areas, because I may have to go visit my mother. She lives in Chicago. She's really sick. Matthew and I may have to go for a while. We don't know how for long. For how long? So sort of Betty Applewhite is setting this sort of to leave, possibly, or a cover to leave town because of what happened with the guy in the trunk and her son
Bree,
Caleb.
Bree's really suspicious of Betty too.
Yeah. So we go to a next scene, and Bree is out to a lunch, or I think it's a lunch or dinner. It's a lunch with the detective, the same detective that was there for her husband's, poisoning and everything else, for George's suicide. So Bree and the detective are out to lunch. She talks about, he ends up asking why he's there for lunch, whatever. She said, well, I need a favor. I have this new neighbor, Betty Applewhite. She's from Chicago. They're a little bit odd. Something seems off. The dead body was found in front of their house. And he ends up questioning, is that why you asked me out to lunch today? She's like, yeah, why? He said, I thought there was something there. I thought we had a spark. I felt this spark between us with your husband's murder and George's suicide and everything else. And she goes, no, you're a nice man. I just wanted to ask a favor. So they go back and forth a little bit, and she says, are you sure you can't check on Betty Applewhite? I have a suspicion about these things. I'm usually not wrong. And he goes, Just like the guy who murdered your husband, you didn't have a suspicion then." So she says she's leaving. Um, they got to settle a bill, and he said, "Let me give you a ride." She goes, "No, no, no, I'm good." She threw money down. He's putting money down. "Let me give you a ride." "No, no, no, I'm good." He said, "She's like, I told you no," and he goes, "No, you've had a few drinks." And he said, "She's like, I've only had two glasses of wine." He said, "And the dessert drink and the pre-dinner drink or whatever." So she probably had like four glasses or whatever,
Yeah.
or three glasses, four glasses. So he says, "I really don't think you should go. Let me at least call you a cab." And she basically, she's nasty to him, and she takes the money back and like, you can pay for lunch. So we
Yeah.
go to Bree driving down the road, and all of a sudden sirens going behind her. It is the detective. He pulls her over. He says, "Look, I need you to get out of the car." She says, "No, I'm fine. You're harassing me. You won't let me go. I told you I'm not interested in you." He said, "No, I have a genuine concern. You were drinking and driving." She says, "I was not, officer. I'm fine. You're harassing me." So he was at one point going to give her a ride home still. And at this point, she's being belligerent. So he basically arrests her. Bree's in jail, the next scene. And we see her in jail with what looks like a possible lady of the night. So the woman ends up asking, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" And then Bracer looks at her and she goes, "How did he get started?" And she goes, "Excuse me?" She goes, "Well, you're a classy escort." And Bree just looks and she's like, "How much do you charge a night?" And she's like, 5,000. She's like, "Oh, what do you do for 5,000?" Just then, in comes the detective, I think, right? Or no,
Yeah.
in comes the police officer and says, "You're free to go." Um, she says, "How am I going to get home?" "Well, your car's impounded. You can get it in the morning." She goes, "How am I going to get home?" He said, "I don't know. Walk. Call somebody." So Betty ends up walking, and Bree ends up walking, and Betty sees her, and Bree's not walking through the nicest part of town. It's not horrible, but it's not the nicest part. Betty's like, "Let me give you a ride." She goes, "Oh, no, no, I'm fine. I'm just having some car problems." She goes, "Oh, I have AAA or car club, whatever. Here, I'll call for you." She goes, "No, no, no, it's okay. I left my thing at home or in the car." And then she goes, "Well, I'm a little bit handy with him. I know a good mechanic." And she goes, "No, no, no." And then Bree finally admits, "Look, my car's impounded by the police." Um, she ends up getting the ride from Betty, and she tells her, "Please don't say anything to anybody." Uh, Betty kind of says, like, lots of people have DUIs. It's okay. And then Bree's sort of taken aback by this, and Bree starts to throw stuff at Betty and says, like, "Look, with everything that's happened here," or no, Betty says to her, "With everything that's happened in your life, it's understandable you'd have some DUIs. You would find some way to cope, with everything, like self-medicate." Basically, Bree's drinking a lot of wine. Bree is threatened and sort of tells Betty off, throws everything she knows about her and doesn't know about her, and says, "The neighbors talk, but nobody knows anything about you." Betty is like, and she says this right in front of her house. Like, Betty dropped her all the way off at the house. Bree gets out. Betty's like, "What the heck?" Like, she's thinking in her mind, "We definitely need to leave." Bree gets in and she has a call from a detective. The detective wants to apologize. He feels horrible for what happened, for arresting her. He said, "Look, I did you a favor. I looked up the Curtis whatever guy was a former detective in Chicago, but he lost his license. So gave some information about that guy that was in the trunk. I
Yeah.
don't think he gave anything about the Applewhites."
Before I get into Gabby, we'll say that in the beginning, I think they were having a blood drive. The ladies were watching the Applewhites. They come over. That's when she mentions the birthday dinner.
Yeah.
Oh, Zach finds out he's AB negative,
Oh, with blood drive.
and
Yeah.
Mike is as well. So somebody pointed out. So he might
Zach,
start
he
thinking.
starts to wonder he thinks that Mike's his dad.
I think Zach starts figuring it out. I forgot about that part too.
And I wrote Mike, Zach, blood, and then father, and I was like, "What the heck's this?" I couldn't piece it together.
Later, after during the Bree
Blood drive.
story, I think after her confrontation with Bree, Betty calls Edie to sell their house.
Yeah.
So Gabby, and Ralph the gardener comes along, and he's like, "Hey, my wife's leaving me. I was online. I was into online porn and all this stuff, and I found this website, and I found this picture." Hands it to her. It's a picture of her like nude on some website. I don't know. They don't really go into when she did it. I wasn't sure if she did it like during the time when Carlos was in jail. I don't know how. And nobody
I
really said.
think they mentioned it was someone she was dating in the past, and she gave those pictures. She took them and gave them as a gift to him.
And he asks for an autograph, and she's like, "Whatever." She doesn't. She does not give it to him. She keeps the picture. Um, Gabby wants Carlos to force the dude to take the pictures off the website. Um, she admits the pictures were a mistake, and she's got to live with it. She goes out and gets nude on the porch for the whole neighborhood. Carlos is like, "What are you doing? Like, what?" Meanwhile, the gardeners are there, Ralph and Luis, and Ralph is like looking and cuts Luis's finger off. I was like, holy shit.
Crazy scene. Yeah,
Yeah. And then I guess they never do anything with that because I'm like, that could have been something.
it could have been
Like
a lawsuit. Yeah,
Carlos and Gabby pull up to that place wherever this guy is. He's like, I can't defend your honor. I don't do that anymore. I'm trying to be good. You're trying to make me bad. She's like, well, that just means you don't love me if you don't do, whatever. So she's like, whatever. He's like, I'll go in, I'll get your pictures back, but I'm going to be nice about it. I'm going to talk to the guy, and it's going to be great. So he goes in. The guy has no problems giving the pictures back. But he does insult Gabby because he's like, oh, she wasn't like good enough for this website anyway, whatever. It wasn't getting that many views. And Carlos is just getting infuriated as he hands back the pictures. So
yeah,
Carlos's day actually did work, but he throws this guy through a window because
yeah,
we're talking shit about Gabby.
yeah.
Of course, Gabby sees him coming out. She's like, "Oh, he does love me." These two.
Crazy.
Um, so yeah, and Gabby is happy with that. And then with the end of the episode, I think
It's nice.
Mike had gone to see.
The
I forget.
guy. It's
Yeah,
his ex-wife. It's actually Zach's mother.
his
The father, the
his
rich guy.
father-in-law, right? And I forget his name. I didn't catch it. His name
Yeah,
is Mr. Taylor, is what I got in the end.
yeah,
Um, while he was there, he fired his nurse. He's like real nasty.
yeah. He stabs his nurse. Actually, she couldn't get the. I guess couldn't get the stick, the IV, to give him a shot, and he grabs the needle and stabs her with it.
Find out that Curtis Monroe was a private detective, the guy that had died on the stairs. And who comes to take care of Mr. Taylor in the end?
Well, we actually were missing a big part of the story. The
Oh,
reason
what?
Mike is there, Mike actually says he said, "Did you find the guy?" I don't have long left. And he goes, "Did you find the guy who killed my daughter?" And he said, "Yeah." He made up some name, Todd something or other. And he said, "Yeah, I got her. He'll never bother anyone again." He says to the old guy, "Does it make you happy?" He said, "No, I thought it would." And that's when the RN went and stuck him with a needle, and he stabbed her
Well,
back and
Mike
took
lied
his life. Mike
too.
lied. He didn't kill anybody because
Yeah,
it was Paul and Mary
right.
Alice. He says something. He makes a comment. I guess we're done. I guess we're done here. And the old guy says, and again I forget his name. Will you come back to see me again? He said, "Why? You're going to have an open casket." He realizes the guy's dying, and he makes
Yeah.
that comment. But like you said, so Mike goes to leave. He fires the nurse. The next scene, the man's dying. He's getting a new IV, and I'll let you tell who it is.
Alicia.
Felicia's his new nurse.
Yeah, Mrs. Huber's sister.
Yes, Felicia
Got,
Tillman.
she got healed up and came back. Now she's
Yeah.
taking care of this dude. And I know she gets involved whenever I forget how because I honestly don't remember much of this stuff of it as
Well,
I'm watching
remember,
years.
Felicia knows everything. She knows that Paul and Mary Alice killed this man's daughter. She
Right.
doesn't know everything yet, but maybe she does know who he is. Maybe she doesn't. But we know Felicia is going to spill the tea, just like Mrs. Huber did and Mrs. Tillman, Felicia. They are very gossipy. They're going to tell everybody everything.
I'm
So this
surprised.
old man's going to find out.
I'm surprised Felicia would try anything because I mean Zach did try to almost kill her at one point,
Yeah.
like beat her up. So I wouldn't mess with them, but
Yeah, I would move off that street.
I think she has nothing else to do, so she's got to
Yeah.
do it. So, all right, thanks for joining us today at Queers and Soaps. Thank you, Patreon and regular subscribers. We love you all. And until next time, see ya.
Bye.